Okay, so I'm back, and today I'm going to be explaining one of the most popular issues within the JoJo community that bugs me, and that's regarding the end of part 6 and what it means for part 7. There's a lot of people out here, I'm going to get this out of the way quick and early. There's a lot of people that really do believe that part 7 is caused by Made in Heaven. That is not true in the slightest. If part 7 was caused by Made in Heaven, part 7 would be an entirely different part. I'll say that. And Araki would have told us in some type of interview, oh yeah, part 8 is just the same. It's the same universe. No, nothing is the same. Well, there are some things that are the same, but nothing's the same. What happened at the end of part 6? Breaking it down, Pucci gets Made in Heaven. He gets it. He basically damn near so very close to winning. He doesn't win because an 11-year-old child took his brother's overpowered sand. Love that sand. Love it. We got a moment of appreciation just for that one.
Leave me alone!
Thank you. Now, after Pucci dies, what essentially happens, because Pucci was so close to winning, he is wiped out from the universe we see at the end of part 6 with Irene and all the new part 6 people. Pucci doesn't exist in that universe. That's very important, right? Since Pucci does not exist in that universe, he doesn't kill all the people who he killed before, and they come back in a different body, but they have the same soul. The only difference is Irene, for example, she is not a Joestar. Irene symbolizes the end of the Joestars and the Brando's 100-something year long rivalry that lasted for centuries. But don't get this wrong, she is not in the part 7 universe. Okay, let's pause right here. What happens in the alternate universe that we see at the end of part 6 is very simple. Pucci's heaven was not completed, it was not fulfilled. Within that heaven, there would still be alternate versions of Jolene. So there'll still be someone, we don't know what her name would be, but it'll be an alternate version of Jolene who has the same soul but doesn't have the stand. However, at the end of part 6, we see the alternate universe with the main part 6 cast that all died coming back, but everything else in that alternate universe is still the same as the original universe we see in parts 1 through 6. So the Joestar history isn't essentially wiped out per se, but Jotaro Kujo and Jolene Kujo don't exist in the Joestar history. And that's where Araki himself has stated he wanted to end parts 1 through 6. He wanted to end the original JoJo universe. And originally, that's how JoJo was going to end. Part 6 was going to be the final definite ending of JoJo. Same with part 3 at one point. Same with part 1 or part 2. But part 6, Araki felt like he could tie everything up, completely finish the Brando Joestar battle, their legacy, which is fair. I like that, but he kind of did something with that same legacy in part 5 with just the existence of Giorno Giovanna. Also, one thing I wanted to add is that I've literally talked about this same topic on my TikTok, and the reason I'm even making this video now is because when I made the videos on my TikTok, I didn't like fully break it down, or I kind of break it down. I gave it a shorter explanation, and there was some people that just still didn't get it, you know what I mean? Or there was people that were like, oh, part 6 is still directly connected to part 7. No, it's not. It's not. No. No.
No, nigga.
No! 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 Nigga. No.
But Araki believing that part 6 would be the ending to JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is what led to Steel Ball Run coming out. Because when Steel Ball Run originally came out on its first run on Shonen Jump, it didn't have the JoJo's Bizarre Adventures brand. It didn't get that until I think 20, 30 chapters in, when he made his decision that part 7 would be a part of JoJo's. It would just be in a different universe. And I really do feel like it's well explained in part 6, if not implied, that Pucci didn't win, his plan didn't work, and everything essentially went back to normal. The only difference is they're still alive. Now, there's one thing I am questioning about. I don't know if Irene and all the part 6 alternate versions we see at the end of part 6 have the same stance as Jolene, Jotaro. And another thing, this is one of the last things I want to say to cap this video off. If the characters from the end of part 6 existed in the new universe, you don't think we would have saw them or heard them or got at least a mention of them in part 8 or part 9 or something? Like, I don't understand how this is still a problem, especially with part 6 being animated, and you can literally go watch part 6 and go, actually listen to it and hear Araki basically explain it through Pucci and basically every other character that, and through the visuals that, Pucci did not win. He did not win. He did not get the alternate universe he wanted to. Everything it's the same. Everything's the same. He doesn't exist in this universe anymore. But yeah, if you stayed for the whole video, thank you for watching. And until next time, okay, we're back. As you can see, we're in a new location. So today's video, we will be talking about why I personally think Stone Ocean lost so much of its hype. In order to get to that, I have to bring you back to 2021. Now, I don't know how many people who watched this video were JoJo fans in 2021, but at the end of 2021, we officially got the first batch, keyword batch, of Stone Ocean episodes. And if you weren't into JoJo like that, I will break it down for you how the parts and stuff go. So basically, within each part, you'll get, they put both of the first 2 parts together. Then they gave us the 3rd part like a year later. Then they gave us the 4th part like 2 years later. All those parts were relatively small compared to what we get later. Because after the end of part 4, it takes them, I think, 2 years for them to officially announce Golden Wind and 2.5 for them to animate and the episodes start coming out. But when it started coming out, everyone was still chill with it because at the time, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures was still weekly. Now, if you don't know, within the JoJo community, JoJo's Fridays was a really big monumental thing. Like literally, everyone in the JoJo community loved them. They didn't care how long they had to wait. They just loved the fact that weekly, every Friday, for almost 39 fucking weeks, almost an entire year, you're just getting new episodes. They love that. And now we're at Stone Ocean Part 6. Now, what made Stone Ocean different from the other 5 parts is the fact that Netflix, previous to Stone Ocean coming out, during the hiatus in between Part 5 and Part 6, we learned that Netflix bought the distribution rights to JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. Now, with the deal, I'm not entirely sure if Netflix will have the distribution rights for JoJo moving forward, so Part 7, Part 8, and Part 9, or if Netflix just has the distribution rights for Part 6. But either way, that was a problem. Now you may ask yourself, how is the person who that's the only way you can stream be a problem? Well, I'll explain. Netflix at the time of which Stone Ocean was coming out, they were still very much in their binge model, you can say. Especially when it came to animes and things of that nature. It wasn't as you see now where you could go on Netflix and see a show like Dan to Dan that is streaming weekly. Back then, Netflix, they were rarely streaming animes weekly. I don't think I remember one that was really streaming weekly. And they were just pumping out seasons or parts to seasons. And they still do that sometimes today. Look at Cobra Kai. They broke that down into 2-3 parts for the latest season. But after Netflix had bought Stone Ocean, the exclusive streaming rights to Stone Ocean, they had decided, hey, we're going to give y'all 13 episodes at a time, and then we're going to disappear. And when I say disappear, I mean disappear. You would go a long time without hearing from Netflix or the official anime account again announcing that another 13 episodes are coming out soon. And with that effectively killed at least 40% of the hype that Stone Ocean just had. And the reason I say it killed such a big number is because you remember how I said JoJo Fridays is such a big thing, or was such a big thing within the JoJo community? That really messed up a lot of people and a lot of people's want to watch the new JoJo part. Like, people love JoJo Fridays so much that with all the news that's going on with Still Well Run that we've gotten recently, people are clamoring for weekly episodes to come back, and I'm one of those people. You can bet on it. I'm one of those people. But anyway, that's not everything that happened in Stone Ocean, because there's more. With Stone Ocean, it came at a very weird time in the JoJo series. Around the time when the manga for Stone Ocean came out, people still wanted a male JoJo. You gotta realize, this was the early 2000s by the time Stone Ocean came out, like the super early 2000s. And the author, Hirohiko Araki, he had already been holding off since the mid-90s on making one of his main characters a woman. He almost made Giorno a woman. So this time he put his foot down with his editor, because every time his editor would tell him no. But this time he put his foot down and said, the time is now. And with that happening, I can say that I've seen a good amount of misogynistic JoJo fans, but I've also seen a good amount of JoJo fans that just don't like part 6. So I'm not going to blame everything on misogyny, even though it does play a good deal. Because even still to this day, Jolene being one of the most perfect examples of what a Joestar really is, people don't see that, and people write her off or just don't talk about her. But that's a whole different discussion. But with that being said, before it even got announced that Netflix was animating it, a lot of people within the JoJo community already didn't want part 6 to get animated. I still remember till this day, there was a fair amount of people saying, oh, let's just skip over part 6 and go straight to part 7. I can't wait no more. What? And the funny thing about saying that is part 6 is unironically probably the most important part within JoJo. You need part 6 for the rest of the series. In the overarching narrative, honestly you do. But part 6 wasn't already a fan favorite. So couple that with the fact that Netflix was taking away something the fans loved in JoJo Fridays, those two things combined took a massive hit of the hype. But there is one more thing that did affect the actual anime this time. Because the other two things were out of David Productions' control. They don't have any say-so on who distributes the mangas they animate. They have no say-so at all. And they don't have any control over the fans. So if people just don't like the part or they don't like the source material, again, there was nothing David Productions could do. However, when the anime did come out, there was a good amount of people that did still end up watching it on day one who had an issue with the CGI. Now, me personally, I had no issue with it. I watched it. The CGI, admittedly, at first, it threw me off somewhat, but I got used to it, honestly. And really what it seemed like with the CGI, they were just trying to cut costs and save for the big final fight, which they did fantastic on the Made in Heaven arc. And later in the part, they did fantastic. But the CGI, on top of the fact that Netflix is now releasing things in bunches and people never know when the next batch is coming out. On top of the fact that we have to wait 9 months in between batches, on top of the fact people don't like part 6 like that, it created a bad bubble of just things that hindered the hype and the growth of part 6 and just the JoJo anime as a whole. And once those big things really started coming out and everyone started seeing them, people started having more complaints. People started being like, oh, the entrance sucks. Oh, the character design sucks. Oh, the backgrounds are empty. Which, that one threw me off, because I was like, why the fuck do you care about the background? But those 3 things changed how Stone Ocean was saw in the public eye, to other anime fans, and to a lot of newcomers within the JoJo community who never got a chance to read the manga and just watched the show. And at the time, being a big JoJo creator on TikTok, it was hell to watch. It really was. I saw one of my favorite parts, personal favorite parts, getting slandered to hell. People saying, let's skip it. People saying the CGI sucks. People saying Jolene sucks. The side cast sucks. Jotaro now sucks. It was crazy. Everyone was hating on everything except one character, and that one character being Poochie. The second one is probably Weather Report. And with the fact that we are getting a part soon, most definitely JoJo Day, which if you don't know, that's where they usually announce the parts. They announced Stone Ocean last time at JoJo Day. JoJo Day is coming April 12th, 2025. So be on the lookout that day. We'll probably get the SBR announcement. And remember, when Steel Ball Run does eventually come out, just be patient. Don't hate watch. Yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all next time. Peace. Okay, y'all. Welcome back. And today, I'm going to do that part 2 that I was talking about in the last video. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. Where we're going to talk about more violations that happened throughout JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, because as I was researching for this video, I had realized there are definitely a good deal of them that have just been animated. I'm not even talking about the ones that have been in part 7, 8, or 9. And what better way to start off this video than talking about Josuke and Rohan versus Highway Star, which really turned out to be a Josuke beatdown on Highway Star. Imagine this, you and your mortal enemy are on a bus, and driving on that bus y'all go down a tunnel, and while on that tunnel your mortal enemy says that they saw a room where a man picked up an unconscious woman's arm. Now you think they're messing with you, so you don't think anything of it, and they go down the tunnel to check it out. Now, by the time they check it out, you're outside the tunnel and you start to slowly go in. But when you go in, you see them getting harmed, because as you walked into that supposed room your mortal enemy was talking about, they are almost completely dead with their nutrients almost completely gone. And you see a stand. Not only do you see a stand, your mortal enemy, the nigga that hates you, tells you to run. So you hightail it out of there and you tell him you'll come back for him once you figure out how to beat this stand. But that stand is not letting you go, chasing you down wherever you go throughout the city. It was on Josuke's tail. And Josuke was evading the best he could, but the thing was, it kept getting faster. His stand, it was keeping up with a motorcycle that Josuke was on. So he called Koichi in order to have him help him find out who the stand user could be. This is where Koichi clutches up and finds that the stand user was in the hospital. Now this is where shit gets crucial, because at this point Josuke, he's angry. And he pulls up to the hospital, and the person in the hospital bed, he's like, I smell blood. Whose blood is it? And Josuke, he says mine. And he looks at him. And the stand user, he's like, you're not going to hurt someone injured in a hospital bed, right? And Josuke says no. Heals him Then he hurts him so bad that he sends him flying outside of the hospital room. He punches him through a window, knocking him into a fountain, re-injuring most of the things he had already injured. Now this next one, I think is one of my personal favorites because it captures how much Jolene was beating niggas up in part 6. Because this is the very first arc, the very first time we actually see Jolene for real within Stone Ocean. And the first time we see her, she's going up against Guess. And can I just say this? Guess had it coming. She was tweaking. Jolene got there and she had the top bunk as a storage space and she slept on the bottom bunk, and then she shrunk Jolene without Jolene even knowing it was her, or without Jolene even knowing what a stand was for real. But she was trying to make her become her pet. She was training her. She was making her run on a wheel, lift books as a little mouse. He made her talk in a mouse voice. The shit was wild. I was watching is this the 3rd episode? Are you sure? But this is where Guess fucked up because she tried to make Jolene go out and steal some shit from a guard. And while she was doing that, Jolene started to grow bigger, and that's when Jolene told her to bring her back, and she did bring her back. Kind of. Jolene was at the gate and Guess made the pendulum drop. Now if you don't remember the pendant, it's the one that gave Jolene the stand, but it dropped and Jolene leaned in to pick it up, and Guess hit her again, making her shrink. And the guard spots Jolene, so Guess she thought for a second that the guard was just finna shoot Jolene and ring the alarm, which the guard ring the alarm, but he didn't shoot Jolene. It gave Jolene time to beat the fuck out of her. And that's what she did. With the last seconds before the guard even pulled up, she used the last 10 to 15, maybe 20, just beating the actual tar piss out of Guess. And it was deserved, and not only that, it was the first beatdown of the part, so the animation was completely crisp. And not only even being the first beatdown of the part, it's the first time we officially get the name of Jolene's stand. So it hit different watching her beat the shit out of Guess after she was fucking with her for an episode and a half. Now for this last one, it comes from part 6 too, and it's actually the most important part of part 6, and that's when Emporio beat the tar piss out of Poochie. Not only beating the tar piss, but resetting the universe, stopping Poochie's current plan that was in progress, and bringing a version of his friends back, even if it didn't bring his friends back with their memories. But starting off, we get Emporio transported to the new universe after Poochie ran through all of his friends, was looking for him, didn't get him, and he rode in on a dolphin, letting him sneak in. Because remember with Made in Heaven, the animals remain unchanged and all that. But since when creating the new universe, Poochie did not have Emporio in mind. He's like, yep, I gotta get this little nigga out of here. So he spent the entire time when he first got to the new universe chasing down Emporio throughout the Stone Ocean prison. And when I say chasing down, he was hunting him down till eventually they got to the ghost room. Emporio thought he would be safe there. Or did he? Because Poochie came out the cut out of nowhere. Now I'm thinking this is the end of the road for my nigga, but he had a plan. He had a plot, really. He had the disc of Poochie's brother weather report, and he popped that bitch in so fast, I was shocked. Because next thing you know, boom! Weather report cracks Poochie upside the head. Now, I'm pretty sure at this point, Poochie, he couldn't use Made in Heaven because it was still in progress. The universe wasn't completed. But none of that matters. Now, of course, Poochie started begging with Emporio, telling him this is bigger than him. He's about to give the universe a gift, eternal happiness. You can't stop eternal happiness. But Emporio was not hearing that shit. And he started clobbering Poochie. He beat him to death, literally. Every punch turned this nigga frosty or extremely hot. Every punch was a new climate. I know Poochie's body couldn't take it, and he didn't hold up for long. Because after Poochie died, we get a reset back to what the original universe was, but since Poochie is dead, he never happens in this universe. So the people in part 6, them being dead, they come back, their souls come back, but their identities, who they were before, that's all different. And out of the part 6 cast, Emporio is the only one to remember actually what happened with them in the journey that they actually just took. And honestly, being a 9-10-year-old learning all that would fuck me up for life. I would have to be put in a mental institution. But to each their own. Maybe he can find a way to explain it to the new part 6 members, or maybe not. But that's all I got for y'all today. If y'all like the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 2K, so please like it up. And until next time, peace. Imagine you were born as a twin, and on your day of birth, what is supposed to be the happiest day of your parents' life, someone comes, switches you out with a dead baby, and takes you, and leaves and raises you, leading your actual birth parents to believe that their child had died at birth and that they only have one son and one daughter. Today we're talking about Weather Report, otherwise known as Wes, otherwise known as the baby who got stolen. And if I'm being honest, there are many people or characters in JoJo that I feel actual genuine sadness for, or I even feel bad for. Weather Report is definitely one of them, because when we see him, when he's even introduced to us, he has amnesia. He can't remember anything. He can't remember his real name. That's why they still just call him Weather Report. But when you find out the history and find out just what his brother did to him, because again, you could make the argument that yes, his brother didn't know that the Triple K would come after him, but you could not make the argument that his brother was still fucking up his life. I'm getting a little bit too ahead of myself. Let's get into this backstory. Of course, you know it will lead up. Born on June 5th, 1972 as Domenico Pucci, Weather Report ended up being stolen by a woman whose baby had passed away after she had given birth to the baby. And from there, he was raised as Wes. His first name was Wes. And while he was under that name, he was a juice delivery boy. Now, one day, I'm pretty sure something from Perla, who is Pucci and he didn't know, a younger sister, he said he stopped something from getting stolen from her. And within 2 weeks' time, they started dating. Now, pause. This is a big issue for multiple reasons. Because for one, now you have Weather Report dating his younger sister unknowingly. And for two, no one at this point knows that they are related, like at all. Well, no one except Pucci, because once Pucci finds out, he starts trying to extort options that would hurt his sister the least. And that's when he calls a private detective agency. And if you remember correctly, that private detective agency would end up being the Triple K. Now, what they did was pretty vital. They looked into Weather Report's mother's records and found out that his stepfather was actually an African American man. Yeesh. So like it was the Deep South in the 1940s, they did a lot of unholy, unsane things to Weather Report, and they made Perla, his girlfriend at the time, watch while insulting her. Low-key, I'm pretty sure they hit her up just a little bit. It was a bad situation. Really, again, this is Pucci's fault. And before y'all come in my comments, oh, he didn't know it was the Triple K. Tell your sister to stop dating you. Get an ancestry test. What are we talking about? Do something other than that. Literally, everything I'm talking about takes place in the mid-80s. What? Come on, bro. Like, this specific part takes place in the mid-fucking 80s. You can't tell me there weren't ancestry tests or something of that effect in the 80s. Pucci, what are you doing? That's not smart. That's actually pretty dumb. But anywho, after the attack, Perla cuts Weather Report down, which I'm not going to say where he was, just know she cut him down. And then after she checked his post and realized she thought he didn't have a post, when in reality it was a very faint post, she jumped off a cliff. And before Weather Report could even want to follow suit, Poochie had stabbed himself with an arrow, giving not only him stand powers, but also Weather Report stand powers. So now, once he regains consciousness, he cannot die. Well, he can, but he can't die off his own free will, meaning he can't choose the easy way out. At least that was his thoughts. As it said, whenever he tried to jump off a cliff, the wind would blow him back onto the side of the mountain. Whenever he tried to drown himself, the water would push itself back to shore. Whenever he tried to, the gun would be jammed with water. Oh yeah, also he did go to that quote-unquote private detective agency, and he made them give him information on Poochie. But it was on the 4th day of him waking up and having his stand powers to where snails started to fall from the sky, and Poochie pulled up on him and he gave him the real news. He told him, yo, we're brothers. Not only that, we're twins. And then you know what he did? Immediately wiped his fucking memory, took his memory disk with White Snake, and then for the cherry on top, he had that nigga imprisoned. For what, you may ask? Attempted murder. 6 years. Crazy. Now that we finished his backstory, I think y'all can understand why I feel so bad for him. Really think about it. You just met this girl. You thought she was cool. You thought she was cute. Whatever the case was. Y'all start dating. Then her brother, who turns out to be your brother too, calls the triple K on you. They do very unholy and unnice things. Your girlfriend cuts you down from a tree, takes your post, thinks you're gone, and then she jumps off a cliff. So once you wake up, you see her off a cliff. So that means in a matter of a week or less, your whole life got turned upside down because you wanted to be a good Samaritan and stop someone from robbing a nice young woman. Y'all see where good deeds get you? I'm joking. Of course, I'm joking. But in all seriousness, this man, Weather Report, didn't have his memories for so long after him and Poochie had that little scuffle and Poochie took his memories. Poochie was basically controlling this man damn near for years on end, I think decades. Because you look at the backstory, they were teens when it happened. Weather Report and Poochie are both 39 in part 6. They are both 39 at the start of part 6. And by the end, they're about to turn 40. So imagine 22 years, up to at least 22 years of your life has been robbed from you. It's been stolen by your own brother. What would you do? Well, I'm about to show y'all what Poochie did. I mean, not Poochie. Well, technically Poochie. I mean, they have the same last name. So after Donatello versus, one of Dio's sons came and gave Weather Report back his memories. That man was a demon. Like, a real fucking demon. Because you'll have to remember, Weather Report was never able to fully get his anger out for all the events that happened to him within that time frame. This is essentially like him picking up where he left off 20-something odd years ago. And that's a bad situation if you're a regular ass person and you're not Poochie. Because for the regular people that were around him, they were getting cooked. He had put an extreme amount of water in someone, turning them into a damn blob. He was electrocuting women, talking about, oh yeah, we just gotta chill. Sitting on the bench, not trying to chase Poochie down no more. While all this is happening, an infestation of snails are falling from the sky and coming everywhere in Orlando. So I'm pretty sure it was because Weather Report and Poochie both had their powers at the same time or something. It had to be something like that. But Weather Report, he says he needs to up the score on Poochie and so dive her down, because honestly, with him and Weather Report, they both use their stands to go search around the town and they don't see him. up until Poochie pulls up in a car, takes off one of Weather Report's legs, pulls up in the car, and Poochie emerged from the snails being unaffected by Weather Report's heavy weather ability. Because usually I'm pretty sure they like turn you into snails or something, because I'm pretty sure immediately after this, Anasui got turned into a fucking snail. And this is where we get that 1v1. Them niggas was going at it. Now Poochie, he was able to take off both of Weather Report's legs. Now they were replaced by a diver down, but he still took them. And Weather, at this point, Weather don't give a fuck. He wants to die. Weather Report literally said that if he cannot get Poochie, he wants it to be over. So Weather Report, he's using the stand ice spikes from the floor, then he used the dried up blood to make more ice spikes. And low-key, it looked like Weather had it. Like, really had it. He was low-key starting to mess up Poochie up until a car crashes into them. And guess who's in that damn car? Versus Jolene, Emporio, and Hermes. And since they lost control of the car, they crashed into the twins. And by the time they got out and tried to help Weather Report, he had already been stabbed through the chest. But he was able, which ended up actually saving them in the end, to get his stand disc and give it to Jolene. And that was the tragic passing of Weather Report. And I want to remind y'all with this, Weather Report only got to experience his from birth to teenage years actually having his memories but not knowing who he was. And then literally a day at the end of his life of him knowing who he was, having his teenage years, and also knowing why he was so angry with fucking Poochie. Like, I feel like there are very few characters I can say even deserve better. And Weather Report is definitely one of them. Having your names taken away from you, having your life taken away from you, and you get put in jail for something you didn't commit, and for something that wasn't even in your control, but you got put into it because your twin brother wants to play God. But if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 2K. We're at 1.6. So please, thank you. And until next time, peace. Giorno Giovanna is one of 4 of Dio's sons. His brothers being Donatello versus Ugallo and Rikael. And Giorno was so different from his other brothers that he's the only one to actually have a significant part. And literally just have a part. He's the only one of the 4 to have a part. And he's the only one that in part 6 did not show up when Poochie had fused with a part of Dio's DNA, therefore drawing not only the Joestars, or therefore not only knowing where the Joestars are, but also drawing in Dio's sons. Now the only mention of Giorno Giovanna comes on Rikael's poster. His poster, and at the bottom it says, "Why isn't Giorno Giovanna there? Perhaps he's in Florida. Perhaps he's somewhere else. It's a mystery." That's literally all that we have canonically about Giorno's whereabouts during part 6. But it's always raised the question, especially to a lot of people, especially when they first saw and or read part 6, where is Giorno? Why wouldn't Giorno be drawn there? And why wouldn't Josuke be drawn there? Because Poochie can sense Joestars. No, like seriously, Jolene even said it herself before she died. He can literally sense her. Well, I just threw the Josuke one in because it's not really much of an explanation needed. Granted, he's a fully grown adult by this point. He might have moved, but like more times than not, he probably stayed in Morio the rest of his life, took care of his mother, been the probably town doctor. You know, we know canonically, at least during the events of part 5, he was still in Morio, and a little bit after that, because in Thus Spoke Ron Kishibe, I think it goes maybe 5 years, close to 3 or 4, somewhere around that gap after part 4. Okay, I actually found the timeline I'm pulling up. He was 27 in 2006 in this Rohan OVA, and I'm pretty sure Josuke appeared, but his face wasn't shown because Rohan fucking hates him, so we only saw the back of his head. So that confirms Josuke at least stayed in Morio like 7 or 8 years after the events of part 4, meaning he was like 24, 25. No, he was 23, 24. I thought he was 17 during part 4 for a second. My bad. But back to Giorno. Giorno is the oldest of Dio's sons. If I remember correctly, if he was 15 in 2001, he's 25 come Stone Ocean. 25 about to... No, he was actually 26 because Stone Ocean does go into... No, he was 27.
Shut the fuck up already. Enough.
Because Stone Ocean goes into 2012 April, and Giorno's birthday is in April. So yeah, he's 2 years older than his next oldest sibling, being Donatello versus. Okay, I went through the timelines again. So Golden Wind takes place at the end of March, I think March 29th, that's when Koichi lands, and ends in April 6th. Giorno's birthday is 10 days later. So that means come 2011, November 2011, or October 2011, he was 26. And he, by the end of Stone Ocean, he was about to turn 27 because Stone Ocean ends in March. I just had to make sure I got that right. Like, that was something that would have bothered me. But notice something between Donatello versus and Giorno Giovanna. Notice this, and I noticed this when I was reading both their backstories again. Donatello versus backstory is so similar to Giorno's, is actually insane. The only difference is Donatello versus wasn't getting beat. You know, both of them hated their stepfathers, as they both did pretty bad things. But Donatello versus, he never had a cop out. By the time he was 13, his life just immediately just kept getting worse. If I remember these events correctly, and y'all can correct me in the comments, he finds a pair of baseball shoes in the sky. He finds out they were owned by a baseball legend that were going to be given to disabled children. He tells the judge they fell out the sky. The judge sends him to juvie. They find out that he really didn't do the crime like 4 months later. But this is, I think, after he ends up walking around. He trips on a knife, and it gets a cut in his hand that infects him, but it belonged to an inmate. And that inmate beat him up regularly because he blew his knife hiding spot. Yeah, his life is just horrible. Like, even when we meet him, he's in despair because he's robbing a place and he got shot. You know what I mean? And the reason I find them to be so similar is because I think Donatello versus is kind of like what Giorno would have been had he not had that gangster that he saved that day when he was 5. Because remember, his stepdad really didn't like him, and his mom really didn't care. Giorno's life before then, it was so sad. Like, the backstory said he stopped crying when he was an infant because he knew no one was coming to save him. Do you know how terrible that is? But even Ungalo, Giorno easily could have slipped into the drug trade and been another one of the kids that were just hooked on drugs and been a drug addict and a criminal all his life, like his literal other brother. I feel like in some ways, the other 3 of Dio's sons was like a peek into what Giorno could have been. Even Rikiel, well, with him, it was, I feel, a lot worse for him because he just had a condition, uncontrollable, that literally just made his life horrible. And he was basically given salvation the same way Dio, his father, would give salvation to other people from Pucci, and that's why he used his stand the way he did. But at the end, he still did a good thing by revealing that Weather Report was Pucci's twin brother. He just got beat the fuck up for it. But how does this all tie in? Why wasn't Giorno just drawn to Pucci, who now had this Joestar curse mark? Well, we have to think back to part 5. In part 5, Giorno, the first of Dio's sons, he, being the first, would have had the least amount of Dio's blood, as it's confirmed that even during he could not fully control Jonathan Joestar's body. We can say when Giorno was conceived, he had even less of a control on that, and as the years went on, he just gained more control. That's why his sons just were turned out different, really. And another had continuous bad luck continuously fall on him again and again and again. They didn't have anything going for their lives. They didn't even have the basics of any type of conviction. Hell, most of them were in horrible, straight up horrible positions right before Poochie met them. Rikiel was literally at home, anxious, with a fatal condition where he couldn't do anything. Ngalo was a drug dealer who was about to slice Poochie's neck for no reason, really, because he was trying to rob him, and Poochie literally just said, hey, we're just naturally drawn together. And he deadass tried to cut his neck. All of them literally had nothing. They had no conviction, they had no goal, they went on no adventures, they did nothing. They were career criminals and drug addicts and just shut-in inside nerds. You know, Giorno was one who was actually a mafia boss. By this point, he had a decade plus experience with his stand. His stand had actually naturally came out when he was a teenager, probably because he had a strong will and conviction. And you can argue with him being the first of Dio's sons, as I mentioned before, not only of him having less of Dio's blood, him having a more Joestar Brando mix makes him more in the middle, you know, rather than the others who are more, you know, closer to the Brando side just based off personality and life experiences, maybe not necessarily by blood. But then that also brings the question, well, why didn't he help the Joestars if he has such a strong conviction and such a strong will? Well, there's the added fact that the Joestar family is just a secret to most of them, because again, most of them do not know their relatives, like Josuke, for example. He has no reference of existence of Jolene. He doesn't know who Giorno is. Hell, he probably doesn't even know who fucking Holly is. He literally only knows Jotaro and his father, because the Joestar family is so split up across different continents and different places. They don't keep in touch. And on top of that, it would make sense why Giorno wasn't necessarily naturally drawn to Poochie, because the other three were literally seeking out something in their lives. All three of their lives were very unfulfilling. They didn't like their lives. Some of them were anxious. One of them was a drug user. Add that to the fact that Giorno, which also knows this, he's so different from the other Joestars. You look at Jonathan, his goal was to kill Dio. Joseph's goal originally was to get Speedwagon back, then it was to stop the Pyramid. Jotaro's goal was to kill Dio. Josuke's goal was to kill Kira. Jolene's goal was to kill Poochie. Giorno was the only one who had an actual goal that was set for a decade plus, and he acted on that goal by rising in the ranks and coming at the boss. He's the only one who actually completed what would be a set goal. So I feel like that would complete the story of which he would call to him. And even then, you don't necessarily have to question Giorno not going to the Joestars, because even when you look in part 5, when Jotaro was in Italy, Giorno wasn't naturally drawn to him. Giorno wasn't even naturally anywhere near him. Jotaro and Giorno never even officially meet. You know what I mean? Giorno has no reference necessarily of any of the other Joestars at all, unless Koichi randomly travels to Italy and tells him about the other Joestars and tells him about Jotaro or Josuke or Joseph. I don't know, I've always felt like it made sense. Giorno's just not there. And it's not just because he's super overpowered. It's because he's completed his story. He's completed his goal. So now he's not necessarily a Brando, or he's not necessarily a Joestar. He's just Giorno Giovanna, because he's the only one, again, who set out a goal and reached it in the main universe. In the alternate universe, that is completely different. All three of them literally set out goals, and we don't know if Jodio has reached his goal yet, but he probably will. But that's really all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. We're on the road to 5K, so anything helps, and until next time, peace. Stone Ocean was like a hell for most of the characters in it that aren't named Enrico Pucci. If you were someone like Weather Report, Anasui, Jolene, Hermes, and finally Emporio, it would have been horrible just being there that entire time. Or worstly, if you were one of Pucci's army or one of his prisoners that he just randomly used, there's a good chance that you're gonna die on whenever you don't beat the Joestar group. Like, Pucci finds you, he's gonna take the disc he gave you, and you're either gonna be mentally incapacitated, sleep, or dead. But that's a part of the reason why today I want to focus on one character, one important character in Stone Ocean who ended up getting the kill and saving the day, Emporio. And in all honesty, I feel like Emporio deserved a whole lot better. I mean, imagine living your entire life within a prison. You've never really known true freedom. You could leave, but you stay there. You have a stand that gives you literally just your own room that you can't interact with anything for real in it. But you have fake food, but it's real. It's ghost food because it's a ghost room. Emporio was born to an unnamed prisoner, and since then he lived there in secret with the help of his stand, burning down the house to use it to hide within a ghost room on the premises. His mother was killed by Enrico Pucci, who stole her discs and left her to slowly rot away. Again, that's awful. The boy kept a bone from his mother's body as a keepsake and a precaution against Whitesnake. However, Pucci was originally unaware of Emporio's existence. At one point, Emporio also meets Weather Report and Anasui, trusting them enough to let them dwell in his ghost room. And then we just see Emporio during Stone Ocean helping and saving and literally guiding the group. He was essentially the big brother of the group because he knew his way around the prison so well, because he ended up spending 11 years, yes, he said he's 11, sneaking around there. Again, this is crazy. But the only bad thing was whenever Emporio actually went with them, he would get singled out if they could. Like, for example, Donatello versus snuck up behind Emporio and hit him in the back of the head because he was trying to steal Jotaro's disc. He didn't do it successfully because Jolene and Hermes popped up to rescue him, but he still tried. But even then, throughout Stone Ocean, he was still a factor, you know what I mean? You had this nigga fucking riding you around in cars, fucking riding you around in helicopters. How is he doing that? How does he even know to do that? He's 11, by the way, and in the manga he's 4'7", and in the anime, and this is off of the model sheets, but in the anime he's 3'3". How is he even reaching the pedals? But you could even say he deserves better during the anime, you know what I mean, because he's serving as this collateral essentially once he's found out by Enrico Pucci, because Pucci, whenever he sends these people, they're not only coming for Jolene and Hermes or Foo Fighters and Anasui. Emporio's there too. That 11-year-old is not off limits, and his only powers is having a ghost room. In other words, most of the time he would have been cooked. That's why I always respected him whenever he was like, yeah, I can't safely go over there. And he just stayed in his ghost room, or he helped them from afar. I always respected that because, again, he's 11. What is this 11-year-old going to do when meteors start falling from the fucking sky? Like, when Foo Fighters asked him to go with them, I was just like, what is the 11-year-old going to do in that super maximum prison? That whole arc, there was 3 stand users and all 3 of them were fucking wilding. Survivor had everyone tweaking. The meteors started fucking falling from the sky. That dumbass dragon's dream. And then at the end, oh my god, we have to talk about the ending. Emporio is left to see the bodies of all of his friends that he just made. The only, mind you, again, the only friends he's ever had in his entire lifetime. He's never even had a parental figure. His parental figure was a murderer and someone who could not remember who he was, so he started calling himself the same name as his stand. And then even after that, he had an organism of fucking plankton all came together. 20-something-year-old who got busted for what? I forgot what Hermes got busted for. I think it was like stealing or something. And then Jolene, who herself did not have a father figure for real, which isn't necessarily completely Jotaro's fault, but most of it lies on Jotaro, because what the fuck are you doing? Even though I do understand Jotaro had to stay away because stand users attract other stand users, and that could have, you know, brought people to his house that he didn't want to affect his young daughter and his wife. But yeah, the outcome wasn't really that great now, was it? But Emporio is left to see this fucking otherworldly being turn into a god, essentially, and reach heaven, and now accelerate the entire world and the universe around him, and start slicing and dicing his friends like a fucking kitchen cutter. This man was having fun in the kitchen. It was like he was using a blender the way he was using his hands just to slice someone's face off. Jotaro. Then Jolene, someone he probably looked up to as his big sister, literally uses the last of her strength to grab him a dolphin, put him on the dolphin, and ride him off into the new universe while she stays back and uses everything she has left to fight Enrico Pucci in Maiden Heaven, and she gets sliced within seconds. And he watches. This 11-year-old kid watches someone he sees as his big sister get sliced. He watches all of his friends, the only friends he's ever had in the world, get sliced, and he's sent off into a new universe where cheap imitations of them exist, but their soul is nowhere near the same. And then Pucci is chasing after him, citing verses of that he shouldn't exist. He doesn't deserve to exist in this new world, and Pucci is hunting him down room to room with disregard for the cheap imitations that Pucci created in this new universe, you know. And Emporio literally has to go for the kill after being traumatized and scared of what's about to happen to him. And once he finally ends Enrico Pucci's life, he's sent back all the way before the events of Stone Ocean, what would have been the events of Stone Ocean, and now he's on the side of this road where he sees Irene, someone who looks exactly like his big sister, someone who has the same soul as his big sister, but it's not his big sister, and he now has to live as the only person who knows the events of Stone Ocean, because they never happened, and Enrico Pucci never existed. That's so much trauma layered on top of it. I would be surprised if he didn't immediately cry for at least 3 to 4 weeks. Like, he would never be the same, if I'm being honest. That's why I low-key wanted Emporio spinoff, just for like a chapter or two, just so we could see how those like effects had on him mentally. Like, the mental effects Emporio had to go through from that time on, especially from like 11, at least for the next 15 to 20 years. He had to be fucked up. But that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Stand designs are like a sacred art within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and today I want to talk about some of the best stand designs. But wait, just wait, because not in any part, but in what has some of the coolest stand designs in my opinion, part 6, Stone Ocean. Because Stone Ocean had some insane designs. I even had a hard time picking the 3 for this video that I did. It's honestly a toss-up with the last one. But up first we have White Snake. Yes, White Snake. There was no way I could make a video about the best stand designs and not include White Snake. From just the way he looks. The black and white design is hard. The black crown is hard. The fact that this man can change his sentient form into like basically slime and come out the walls, that's hard. Pause. Like, genuinely, I think Araki was near his peak. He thought he was at his peak when he was making Stone Ocean, and like, can you blame him? Some of these stand designs were otherworldly. Like White Snake, when I first saw him in the manga, I thought that was literally just the main villain stand. I didn't think he was evolving in any way past that, because I already thought that stand was so cool, and I thought if he did evolve, it would be an even cooler version of White Snake, which C Moon, that's debatable. He's another person I thought about including into this video. And it's the fact his design literally goes with his stand ability, because written on him is all the codes to DNA, which is a part of the way he takes out your disc. He's taking your disc and now he's taking part of your DNA. DNA you need to function and survive. That was always one of the hardest parts, I thought, like just the words written across his chest. And I think it's even cooler that when you know White Snake's origin, he was made based off of Araki's idea of an executioner, which is cooler. I'm sorry, an executioner that can melt through walls and has melting irises in his eyes and his whole body looks like he's lit up. Literally, if you look in the anime, this man looks like he's lit up, mostly because they use a CGI model, but like, I enjoyed it. But just literally look at this design and tell me he doesn't look tough. You can't, because if you did, you would be lying to me and you. Up next we got Diver Down. Oh my god, Diver Down. Such a clean design. I'm just envisioning the colors now as the colors flash across your screen. It's that design right there. Top tier. I'm sorry, when I'm making a Stone Ocean list and we're talking about stands, if it's one of my favorite stands, Diver Down's always on the list. If it's one of the best stand designs, Diver Down's always on the list. If it's one of the best stand powers in Stone Ocean, guess what? Diver Down's on the list. I find it funnier that this human highlighter is wearing scuba diver gear, because I'm sorry, on the wrong stand that looks ass, on the right stand that looks beautiful. That's the whole reason why I feel like most of these stand designs work, because they're personalized to the stand ability and the person. Now, was Anasui ever really scuba diving like that? No. But was he picking apart people? Yes. Is his stand about jumping into someone or something and inflicting damage on it and pushing that damage outward? Yes. Like, I'm sorry, I know it might be glazed. I know some of you may come in this comment section and be like, oh, where's whatever, and I'll just be like, well, if you say where's Jolene, I'm just gonna say this now also, I'm not putting JoJo's into the best stand design category, because that would be unfair, because most of the JoJo's have some of my favorite stand designs in their parts. Josuke. But Diver Down was elite. Now, for this next one, this was the tough decision. Now, I had two decisions, and some of you are going to be mad at what I picked, but the two choices were Underworld and Weather Report. Now, this is my personal list. Your personal list may be completely different from this, but guess what? You saw the fucking dumb thumbnail, didn't you? Didn't you? It's Weather Report. I'm sorry. The cloud design is tough. Having a stand that can pop out the clouds is tough. The design of the entire humanoid body is also tough, especially when like he has his full body out. You can see even the feet resemble the Greek god Hermes. Are you kidding me? This man got clouds on his wings. I mean, on his shoulders, basically making his shoulders wings. Are you kidding me? And then I think I just like the stand designs where the face is just like some type of mask, some type of built-in husk onto his face, but like it literally looks like he could take the first part off, but it looks tough. And then you got the spikes on the head. Don't like Weather Report. That stand, it will always have a special place in my heart. For one, the colors that they add is usually light blue or white. Always tough. Full white or full all blue stand, always tough. If it's a one color stand, know the design is probably insane. I don't know. I just like the simpler design. I feel like it's really fitting for what the stand power is, and for the fact that a lot of stand designs get a little overcrowded, especially in later parts. Like, they get a little too much. I like having just a stand where it looks like it blends into the clouds, and it can blend into the clouds and just pop out the clouds. That's tough. But yeah, if y'all enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Perla Pucci is one of the most forgotten characters within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and for good reason. I mean, her two brothers are two of the most known characters within their respective part, which is part 6. But today I want to highlight Perla's very short life, because again, this is Pucci's fault. It is. Like genuinely, it is. I understand. He was 16, he was a kid, he didn't mean it. It was still his fault. But enough about Enrico Pucci. Let's talk about Perla. Now, Perla, she's the younger sister to the two twins, her two twin older brothers, one of which she knew and the other one she didn't, or the one she thought died. So she went to high school, she went to school in the town, her whole family was very influential. We already know the backstory of Pucci. She had a pretty normal life. This was all until she met a delivery boy in her neighborhood named Wes. Now, the way her and Wes met was because she got jacked for, I think, her purse, and then Wes stopped him and gave her purse back. Now, shortly after meeting him, they felt some sort of connection, even though that connection was sibling connection, but they felt some sort of connection and they end up getting together. Now, I do want to pause here and just mention Perla was 14. Wes was, I want to say, 18. Him and Pucci were 18. Brother, what the fuck are we doing? Probably gonna be someone in my comments like, bro, it was the 80s, that was a different time. Ill. Nevertheless, after that, Pucci was at the convict, training to be, I believe, a priest, and someone confessed to him that his dead sibling, quote unquote, was actually still alive and under the name Wes. Yep, his twin brother and his little sister are dating each other. So Pucci, he thought, oh man, this fucking sucks. And because whatever happens in the confessional stays in the confessional, and whatever is said in the confessional stays in the confessional, Pucci decided, well, I can't go out and say anything. I just need to hire somebody to break them up. And of course, Pucci goes to the most racist looking detective in town, and he hires him. And surprise, surprise, they're in the South, in the United States, in the 80s. Yup, the KKK just started chasing them down. Now, I would be disingenuous not to mention that the KKK apparently went after Wes because his stepfather is black. Whatever, I don't know, but they went after him, and then they saw Perla, who looks completely white, kissing Wes, which I was saying ill for another reason. Incest, and it feels like that's a weird age gap. 14 and 18, that's a bad age gap. But they saw that and they thought it was a interracial marriage. Cooked. And what then transpired was the worst night of Perla and Wes's life, as they both were mobbed by the Triple K Mafia, and Wes ended up being hung, and I'm pretty sure Perla was sexually attacked. And she was also just getting attacked plain out because they thought she was kissing a white passing black man. And by the time Perla woke up, all she saw was Wes hanging from a tree. She tries to cut him down, and she does, and she can't feel his pulse, even though he was kind of alive. So she decides to jump off a cliff, killing herself, and leaving Pucci to find her body. As he questioned to himself, why did I go to that investigator? No, he didn't. He really was just in pain and sorrow. Then he decided, you know what? I need to go wipe my brother's memories clean right now. The Pucci family backstory always makes me so sad, because I'm pretty sure the parents probably had no idea what was going on in the background, and they don't know that her son or their son inadvertently sicked the Triple K on their other son and their daughter, but they have now lost their daughter. They've already been thought they lost their son, but now they've actually biologically lost their son. And Poochie was now hell-bent on getting Dio's diary, and then he immediately, like a year after that, or like a few months after that, probably learned about Dio's death. So then now he was hell-bent on making a plan to trap Jotaro Kujo, which he eventually did. But sometimes I just wonder how the guilt just never didn't eat Poochie alive inside, to the point where he told his parents everything. Like, we don't know if he did tell his parents everything, but I just highly doubt that. But I feel like Perla was the one who got the shortest end of the stick here, because she was just a 14-year-old just living. She ain't do nothing. If anyone deserved better, it will always be her. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K. And until next time, peace.